Welcome back. Imagine this, you're logging into your email, scrolling through your social media, backing up files on your cloud. Now, what if I told you that starting the next financial year, tax officials in India can access all of it? No court order, no prior notice, just open access to your digital world, all in the name of fighting tax evasion. Is this really a necessary step towards transparency or a massive invasion of privacy? That's the big question we are asking, because for the first time ever, India's tax officials will be able to search not just your home and your office, but also your digital space. What that means is that they can access your email, they can access your social media accounts, your banking, your trading platforms, your cloud storage, and what not. Here's the most controversial part. If you deny access, officials are empowered to override system protections and extract the data anyway. This is a massive shift from the current system, where tax officials can only seize physical assets and documents. Now, your entire digital footprint is under scrutiny. So the government argues that this law is not about privacy invasion, but also about cracking down on financial fraud. Officials say that tax evaders have gone digital, hiding money through encrypted emails, offshore bank accounts, and even social media transactions. Now, if tax officers don't have digital access, they say criminals will always stay one step ahead. Listen in to the government's defense.
Well, first of all, if a law is made, there has to be complete transparency in the law, and it should be for the citizen and for the country. Now, if I'm an honest person, I'm paying my taxes, why should I worry about all these laws? Who gets worried with this kind of law? Who does some kind of evasion? Who does some kind of money laundering? Who does some kind of a things which is not declared, like Binami Sampatti and all? So they must be scared of this. But if you're so scared, come out, have a discussion in the parliament. The parliament is going to start. They should raise their concern, let people of this country know that if this kind of law is being brought by this government, which can question money laundering, which can question tax evasion, our opposition has a problem with that.
But do you think there should be enough safeguard? But people are saying that, there should not be a state overreach in this case.
There is always safeguards. Any law which has been made, it is there with the full transparency for the people and for the country.
I think this is a tool to harass people and to infringe upon their privacy. As it is, the tax officials have got too many powers. They can come inside your house. They can shut you up in your house. They will not allow you outside. They can have a raid. They can turn your whole house upside down. They can walk away with anything they want. And then after that, if they lose the case in the court, what happens to you? You've been traumatized. Then they make press releases that give information in media, informally or formally, destroying your reputation. And tomorrow the matter goes to court and is turned aside. What happens to your reputation? They've been doing this kind of dirty tricks for very long. I think it's time for the Prime Minister and the Finance Minister to stop it, not give them more powers. This Finance Minister has given more powers to tax officials to harass people than any Finance Minister I know. And I work with multiple Finance Ministers. For example, they increased the reopening to 12 years from 6 years, then they brought it down again last year. I mean, this is ridiculous. The Finance Minister is there to protect taxpayers' interest. Is everybody in this country a crook? We are not crooks. We are honest taxpayers who have been paying tax for 35, 40 years. And we are put at the mercy of these people out of control. Now, if a tax authority comes to your house and does a raid, doesn't find anything, and tomorrow he gives the information, it turns up a court, what kind of recompensation are you going to get? What will the Finance Minister do? Make sure these people are punished. 15 lakh crores is stuck up in a tax disputes. 15 lakh crores went up from 5 lakh crores some 5-6 years back. And then the tax disputes where people are not traceable is another 15 lakh crores, 30 lakh crores. Who is accountable for that? You cannot enter somebody's privacy. Supreme Court has said privacy is a fundamental right, and this goes against the Supreme Court judgment. It goes against the fundamental rights, and this is totalitarian, and I think they must withdraw this. If they want to do it in rare cases, let them go to court. Then there be a court appointed, like CPC, the court of court. Let them go with all documents to the court, get a court order, then do it. All these raids coming to your house should stop. I think they should go to a court, and we must be protected as citizens.
So the big question is, where do we draw the line between necessary enforcement and a push for transparency and government outreach? That's the question we are asking here. Jasmine Sandwalia from the BJP and Advocate Ashpit Khadiyar from the Congress continue from a previous debate, but I'm also being joined by Pawan Duggal, who is India's foremost cybersecurity expert, and I'm also joined by Manish Pariyar, who's a noted political analyst. Manish, thanks for being on the show. Let me start off with a simple question. Mr. Mohandas Pai is generally one of the biggest supporters of the government and its policies. If he has come up with a very angry rant against this legislation, that means there's something fundamentally flawed, wouldn't you believe?
Good evening to you, and good evening to all the co-panelists and the viewers. See, of late I have seen that the tone and tenor of Mr. Pai has changed, and he has every right to do that. So I would not say that of late, he has been so much pro-government, but then I do not really agree with what he was saying. He was quite emotional, but you must look at from a broader perspective. So my first argument would be is that has it really happened in last 10 years? And you and all the panelists and viewers have to think that this government, has it not been very progressive on tax laws, especially personal income tax laws of late? Some of the measures which government did for middle class, that was welcome. But most importantly, who started this faceless income tax methods? Earlier, they used to call you. Now, nobody can really know you who you are. Now, if you look at the record of the government of last 10 years, you will find that the draconian measures as well as the tax terrorism, which earlier used to happen, and I'm talking about with a lot of sincerity, that is almost vanished. Nobody fears now income tax. In fact, people are more fearful for nowadays GST rather than income tax. And that's the common understanding and assessment. That is my first point. Second, I think it is not meant for normal tax-paying people, right? It is meant for people who are into tax evasion big time. Now, it says that they can look at, see, these are for extraordinary circumstances. We have not seen in last 10 years any government action where you would find that the government is actually doing undue things as far as tax for normal people are concerned. Now, obviously, Mr. Pai talked about disputes which are corporate disputes. These are not individual tax issues which he talked about 15 lakh crores. These are corporate disputes, and there would be a difference of opinion, and therefore we may find such kind of money being stuck out there. Now, there is another last point I would like to say before you can really move. My point was that people who are honest, people who are right-minded, right-thinking, salaried people, they are paying taxes. There are no problems. Now, even the businessmen, now they are under GST, and we have seen a huge jump in GST. But a lot of government, and with due respect, not all of them are corrupt, but many people within the government system, they're earning lakhs and lakhs of crores of people. They are also not in the net. You may look at it even from that side. Because, the number of taxpayers who are more than 50 lakhs is just, I was looking at that data.
No, Manish, Manish, with all due respect, Manish, with all due respect, I think you've got the crux of a concern wrong. And it's not about tax terrorism, or it's not about whether how many people find it accountable, find the system to be transferable, open, then on. Fair enough, the government probably has made progress on that. The question is about snooping into data privacy. It's not about tax compliance, it's about data privacy. And that is where the track record of the government and coming up with questionable provisions is a bit complicated, Manish. I mean, you don't have to counter me on that. Let me bring in the expert on that. Pawan Duggal, you have seen the provisions of this new IT bill. You have seen what it means. Digital spaces comes up, I think, several times, I think in clause 245. And it is defined in, I think, clause 267, what digital provisions are. That includes your email ID, that includes your social media, that includes your online banking details and transactions here. Now, that is very sensitive data. Is there any logic or any argument that can be made as to why the Income Tax Department will need access to that kind of data of mine?
Clearly, the Income Tax Department would want to fish up as much data as possible. Today, they are finding that people are declaring less incomes, but they are flashing very flashy jewelry or expensive vacations on social media, which is prima facie proof of them expending far more money than what they are declaring. So the intention behind this particular power giving to the income tax department appears to be logical. The fundamental question that comes up for consideration is it going to be sustainable? Well, the Supreme Court, in the case of Justice Puttaswamy versus Union of India, has categorically held that your fundamental right to life includes your right to privacy, both personal privacy as well as data privacy. Now, this fundamental right of life cannot be curtailed except in accordance with procedure established by law as stipulated by Article 21 of the Constitution. So if this bill gets passed by an Act of Parliament, then it's in accordance with procedure established by law, and that particular provisions will be valid. However, that will not stop people from challenging the constitutional validity of such a law passed by Parliament for the very simple reason that this goes completely contrary to the foundation of your fundamental right to life, not just mere animal existence, but a right to a dignified human life. Now, what kind of dignified human life would you be in a position to have if the income tax guys can just come in, they can confiscate all your data, all your devices, and lo and behold, you are left completely naked, bereft of any protection. So clearly, there are huge areas of concerns in terms of potential contravention of the fundamental premise of privacy by these powers. Maybe these powers are required, but then more than the powers, it's the need for appropriate checks and balances. Even if you have such powers, please stipulate what are going to be the respective checks and balances on the income tax department,
and the checks and balances they are missing because there is no judicial or there's no magistrate consent required for this. There's no warrant that's required, and that is the main concern. Jasmine Sandwalia, you've heard from Mr. Pawan Duggal. This prima facie is a clear violation of Article 21, which talks about the right of privacy. It's a clear violation of the Supreme Court 2017 judgment, which we just had on screen, which talked about how the Supreme Court very clearly pointed out, and I'll read it here. The Supreme Court said that any act has to pass the tests of legality, necessity, and proportionality. Nowhere is this done in the world, Jasmine Sandwalia. The United States, in the IRS, requires a court warrant. In UK, the HMRC is guided under strict data privacy laws. In European Union, there's the GDPR, which is one of the strictest data protection laws the world has ever seen. Mr. Pawan Duggal can testify to that. Is this not evidence of a bill that has been thought of with not the right amount of homework in it when it comes to looking at checks and balances?
Well, when we talk about the global laws, I certainly want to raise up this issue that we are a very young nation. We became independent just about 75, 76 years back. And the economy of the country has improved tremendously, and we've been a third world country, and we have moved towards progress and prosperity with each political party. And I will not say that just the BJP has ushered in great economic progress. Right from day one, all political parties, whoever came into power. When we say that the Supreme Court says that this is totally, will say that this is totally wrong, I want to say that when we are talking about money laundering, when we are talking about mafia which controls Benami properties of great magnitude, I think if somebody is clean and they have nothing to hide, they should have no objection that their emails or the social media can be read. Now, this law is not targeted towards the tax-paying ordinary citizen of India. This is going to be used for extraordinary circumstances where we know where the concerned authorities suspect and are aware that huge amounts, colossal Benami properties and colossal misgivings are taking place. And that is when this law is going to be implemented. And one has to understand that
Advocate Khadial, does this assure you?
Laws have to be made. Laws in a society, in any living society, changes happen, and change has to happen for the good and the better of the economy.
Advocate, so you are saying, Jasmine ji, that this is an exceptional provision within a law which will be used only under exceptional circumstances against exceptional people who try to exceptionally manipulate the system and not...
Mr. Bhattacharya,
okay, extraordinary.
Under extraordinary circumstances.
Extraordinary, not exceptional, sorry, extraordinary. Advocate Kadial, do you buy that assurance?
See, the fact of the matter is that almost everyone on the panel, other than the BJP spokesperson, have said that this is ultra biased to the Constitution. This is unconstitutional to the very core of it and will not stand the test of time, the test of the Honorable Supreme Court, the test of the Constitution, because it is violative of Article 21, which is a fundamental right. And in 2017, KS Puttaswamy versus Union of India made it very categoric as to how important right to privacy is. Now, the fact of the matter is that the Bharatiya Janata Party should tell, why do they not want a judicial approval to be there? Because even the courts say that we are not infallible. And the Bharatiya Janata Party wants to believe that the income tax officers are infallible and they have a problem with obtaining prior approval, permission from the honorable courts. What possible problem could they have? Number two, there is no possible framework in order to govern it and no procedural safeguards at all whatsoever. Now, the fact of the matter is that the Bharatiya Janata Party needs to give up their double standards, because you remember, at the time of electoral bonds, the Bharatiya Janata Party did not want to disclose its donors, did not want to give the particulars, did not want to give maintain even a list of the names. So here the Bharatiya Janata Party is saying that everything should be under the lens. See, the fact of the matter is that there's a famous saying, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. This is going to be one used as a weapon if it falls in the wrong hands. And we have all seen how the Bharatiya Janata Party has been accustomed to using the IT, the ED, the CBI. Allegedly, we've all seen how the conviction rate has gone down. We've all seen how back-to-back raids are being conducted against the opposition parties, opposition leaders. There's no opposition party in India that's not an ally of the Bharatiya Janata Party that has not been targeted by these central agencies. And now, by bringing this law, the Bharatiya Janata Party wants to take that to another level, because the fact is that
these raids,
BJP has
and these raids mysteriously, these raids mysteriously stop every time a politician joins the BJP. That's a separate debate. But Manish Pariyar, you get the gist of the criticism which I had pointed out after opening arguments. It's not about tax terrorism. It's about the misuse of data privacy in order to target it. And it's not just politicians. I have till now found the timing very funny that the BBC has tax raids conducted on them in India. Just weeks after its head office in London comes up with a documentary that presents the ruling dispensation in an unflattering light. These concerns persist about agencies such as the income tax being weaponized against critics of the government here. And if you give them access to emails and social media, those accusations will only get stronger.
My point, Ritanshiji, was that this entire thing is going to go to the parliament. And obviously, you know, the opposition as well as the other parties, they're going to give suggestions. And these parties are mirror to society. So they have every right to really come up with those suggestions. And government, even with earlier bills, wherever they have found that things are, suggestions are something that can be included in that, they have really done that. So, you know, I think it's like jumping the gun, because this process is going to take a lot of time. There'll be a lot of inputs which will be taken from industry also, from people. And they have every right to put their reservations out there. But once, and we need to really see again in what format this particular bill comes up. But as you have yourself mentioned, that globally there are now laws that ensures that such kind of criminal activities, financial frauds, those kind of people who have really amassed huge amount of wealth and they are being not tracked or traced. Digitally, everything is happening. So you need a new law to ensure that income tax department can really play a significant role to, bring back those money and whatever money laundering is happening.
I agree with you, because as we are showing on our screens, the current Income Tax Act is something that was conceived, I think, for 54 years ago, and it needs a revamp. And I'll also give it to you, Manish Pariyar. As we speak, from tomorrow, which is the 6th of March, there will be a select committee which will go through this bill. And the stakeholders who have been asked to give the response, the CI, FICCI, which is industry bodies, there is the Institute of Chartered Accountants, there's Ernst & Young, which is a representative of corporate India, and the Select Committee also has members of the opposition. So we're not jumping the gun, but we are just pointing out an important concern which we hope gets addressed, or at least checks and balances get built at this point. Pawan Duggal, I'll come to you for the last word. The problem is, and I'm not necessarily imputing bad intent from every political party, but there is a chronic problem in our politicians and governments sacrificing, or at least tending to sacrifice, data privacy when it comes to better transparency and better efficiency of investigative agencies here. What word of caution would you give to the government and the stakeholders as they look to come up with a very important bill which will simplify everyone's lives?
Well, the message is loud and clear for every government. Try not to ensure that these powers get exploited for political or other vested purposes. Try to provide transparency, accountability, and responsibility to the users at large. At the end of the day, we've seen the powers of income tax are extensively being misused in a variety of other circumstances. Now, once you're giving this kind of a blanket power, which even incidentally, the Information Technology Act 2000 does not give so, which incidentally, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023 does not give you so, you're now trying to come up with something which runs completely contrary to the provisions of both the Information Technology Act 2000 and, of course, the Digital Personal Data Protection Act 2023. So unless until you come up with very strong checks and balances, which are well documented, there must be appropriate written permissions that we sought. The said written permissions must be sought from higher authorities in the government. Further, there should be judicial accountability, judicial review, which should be present. And any person who's aggrieved by this should have the ability to move the court immediately. Because at the end of the day, this is going to be about infringement or violation of people's fundamental rights. Every government must give that impression that, look, while I will work for the sovereign interest, I'm not here to completely transcend upon or violate the fundamental rights of people at large. So once that kind of a messaging is given by the government, and if appropriate, very stringent checks and balances can be done. One of the panelists talked about this being extraordinary usage of circumstances. Let that be documented in the language. Let there be minimum 10 conditions to be fulfilled before such kind of a power can be exercised. That's going to help enhance the confidence of people at large. Otherwise, once this law, even it gets passed,
wise words indeed, Pawan.
The doors of the various Supreme Court in terms of constitutional validity.
Yes. So, which is why we hope it gets nipped in the bud, and the reason behind why we do this kind of responsible journalism is hopefully to bring these issues. Hopefully the Select Committee and political and corporates and industry stakeholders take note of this here. Thank you so much, Pawan Duggal, Manish Pariyar, and also Advocate Ashpreet Khadial and Jasmine Sandwalia for joining us on this very important debate. That's it from me on the Urban Debate. Shreya Upadhyay joins you on the other side with Nation Tonight and Global Mirror. Stay tuned.